My name is Mallory Kensington, and I'm 28. I used to think the worst kind of betrayal came with noise, screaming, slamming doors, somebody crying hard enough to make you feel like a villain just for breathing. I was wrong. Sometimes betrayal arrives as a single text message, punctuated with a heart emoji, like it deserves to be forgiven before you even finish reading. It was a Tuesday, the kind of Tuesday that doesn't feel important while you're living it. I was having lunch at my desk, half listening to the office chatter around me, scrolling through a travel site in another tab, because apparently my brain thought planning a honeymoon would make the stress feel romantic. My salad was already wilting. My iced coffee was sweating onto a stack of paperwork. I remember thinking, absurdly, that adulthood was just paying for things and pretending you weren't scared all the time. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Ethan, my fiancé. 3 months engaged, 2 years together. A man who could look me in the eye and say forever, like he meant it, like it wasn't a word he tossed around when it suited him. The preview line popped up first. We need to talk about the ring. I frowned, thumb hovering. The ring. The ring I bought him after he'd sat across from me on my couch, palms open like he was offering me something noble. I want to wear one too, he'd said. It should look like we're both taken, both committed, equal. It had sounded progressive, sweet even. At the time, I'd smiled like my heart wasn't melting. I'd told myself I'd found a man who wanted to meet me in the middle, a man who didn't see love as a one-sided performance. So when I opened the text, I expected something small, practical. Instead, I read, "My friends keep making comments, and honestly, it's embarrassing. Noah's ring is way bigger. Mine looks like a promise ring next to his. I know you can afford better. You just bought that stupid gaming computer for $3K. I need you to upgrade this ASAP." There was a second message right after, like he couldn't bear the silence of my shock. "We need a bigger diamond. My friends are making fun of my ring." My office didn't change. No alarms, no dramatic music, but something in me did. A quiet shift, like a door clicking shut somewhere deep in my chest. I stared at the screen long enough that it dimmed and went dark. I tapped it awake just to make sure I hadn't imagined the words. Embarrassing. Promise ring. Upgrade ASAP. I felt heat rise up my neck, the kind that usually comes before tears, but my eyes stayed dry. I wasn't sad yet. I was alert, like my body was gathering evidence. Because the ring he was insulting, it wasn't cheap. It wasn't careless. It wasn't some impulsive piece of costume jewelry I'd grabbed from a mall kiosk. It was a 1.2 carat, ideal cut, a stone I researched for weeks. I'd walked into that jeweler with a notebook on my phone. Clarity grades, settings, resale value, all the things you learn when you're trying to buy something symbolic with money that still feels like it belongs to your future. It cost $85, and it took me 6 months to save for it without touching my emergency fund. 6 months of skipping little luxuries. 6 months of saying no to weekend getaways. 6 months of watching Ethan hint about equal commitment like it was a test I needed to pass. And now he was comparing it to someone else's ring like I'd failed. Around me, someone laughed at a joke I didn't hear. A printer hummed. My manager walked past and nodded. Life went on, but inside me, a new kind of clarity slid into place. Sharp, clean, almost peaceful. Ethan didn't want a partnership. He wanted a scoreboard. I typed back 2 words before I could talk myself out of it. Say no more. For a moment, my finger hovered, and I watched my own reflection in the black glass of my phone screen. My face calm, my eyes steady, like I was someone I hadn't met yet. Then I hit send. He replied almost instantly. "I knew you'd understand. Love you, babe." I read that twice. Not because it moved me, because it confirmed something. He thought I was agreeing. He thought I was trained. I didn't answer. I closed my laptop. I told my manager I wasn't feeling well. That part wasn't even a lie. My body felt strange, too light, like my spine had finally stopped carrying something it was never meant to hold. I drove straight to the jeweler. The air inside was cool and expensive. The glass cases sparkled under perfect lighting, designed to make you forget you were spending rent money on a symbol. The manager recognized me the second I walked in. "Mallory," he said warmly, "everything okay with the ring?" I placed the little velvet box on the counter, gently, like it was fragile. "Perfect condition," I said. "I need to return it." His smile faltered, not dramatically, just enough to show he understood what that meant. He didn't ask if Ethan had changed his mind. He didn't try to convince me to upgrade. He didn't pitch me on bigger stones. He just nodded, like a man who'd seen this exact story before. "Of course," he said quietly. "We can do that." The paperwork took 15 minutes. 15 minutes to undo 6 months of saving, 2 years of believing, and 3 months of planning a wedding with a man who measured love in carats. When he told me the refund would hit my card within 3 to 5 business days, I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because time suddenly felt like it belonged to me again. On my way out, he hesitated. If you want to look at upgrades, he offered, cautious. I met his eyes. No thanks, I said. I'm good. Driving home, I didn't cry. I kept thinking of Ethan's words, embarrassing, and the way he'd said it so casually, like humiliation was my responsibility to fix. When I got to our apartment, the place felt staged, like a model unit of the life I thought we were building. His shoes by the door, our framed photo on the shelf, him kissing my cheek, me smiling like trust was simple. I moved through the rooms with a steadiness that scared me a little. I packed what was mine. Clothes, books, my laptop, the espresso machine I bought before Ethan ever moved in, the small things that made my mornings mine. I left anything we bought together. I didn't want proof. I didn't want souvenirs. On his dresser, the ring box sat carelessly beside his cologne, like it was just another accessory, like it wasn't something I'd bled time for. He only wore it for pictures anyway. I opened it and slid a sticky note inside. My handwriting looked shockingly neat. Returned for full refund. You were right. You do deserve more. Good luck finding it. I closed the lid. Then I sat on the edge of the bed for one breath, just one, and blocked Ethan's number. Blocked his Instagram. Blocked his Facebook. Blocked everything. It wasn't dramatic. It was surgical. By the time Ethan got off work, I was already pulling into Danielle's driveway with my trunk full of my life. Danny opened the door in sweatpants and a messy bun, took one look at my face, and didn't ask for the story first. She just stepped aside and said, "Spare room's ready." That night, my phone stayed silent. Not because Ethan wasn't calling, because he couldn't reach me anymore. But the explosion didn't stop. It just redirected. At 6:47 p.m., Danny held her phone out to me, eyes wide. "Mallory," she said slowly, "he's texting me." On her screen was Ethan's message, the first crack of panic slipping through his confidence. "Where is she? This isn't funny." She took the ring. "Tell her to answer me now." I stared at it, then looked up at Danny. And for the first time all day, something that almost felt like a smile pulled at my mouth. Because Ethan still thought the ring was the prize. He didn't understand yet. The ring was just the receipt, and I was done paying. Calm didn't last long in Danielle's house. It never does. Not when you've just yanked a thread out of someone else's carefully stitched narrative. Danny sat beside me on the couch, her phone buzzing so often the screen couldn't even dim. Each vibration sounded like an accusation. Each notification felt like Ethan trying to push his way through a locked door with nothing but his ego. "Do you want me to answer?" she asked, thumb hovering. "Just to tell him you're safe?" I watched the screen light up again. Ethan, 7 missed calls. Ethan, pick up. Ethan, Mallory, this is childish. Ethan, you can't just do this. The way he wrote, "You can't hit me harder than the calls." Not because it hurt, because it revealed the truth. In Ethan's head, I wasn't a person with choices. I was a role, a function, a resource. "You don't have to," I told Danny, but she'd already hit record. Danielle is the kind of friend who doesn't just hold your hand when the world collapses. She documents the collapse in case someone tries to blame you for the rubble. She typed one sentence back. "She's not here." Then she tossed her phone onto the coffee table like it was contaminated. Ethan called again immediately. Danny answered, put him on speaker, and I heard his voice for the first time since the text. He wasn't crying, he wasn't apologizing. He was angry in that controlled, polished way that always made people believe he was being reasonable. "Where is she?" he demanded. Danielle leaned back like she had all night. "Not here." "You're lying." Danny's eyes flicked to me, asking permission without words. I gave a tiny shake of my head. Danielle shrugged into the phone anyway. Wasn't the ring embarrassing? There was a pause, a split second where I could almost hear Ethan recalculating. "That was taken out of context," he snapped. "She's ruining everything over nothing." Danny's laugh was short and sharp. "Over nothing? You called an $8,500 ring embarrassing, Ethan." He inhaled like he was about to perform heartbreak. "She knows what I meant." "No," Danielle said, voice turning cold. "She knows what you are." She hung up. The silence after felt heavy, like the air was waiting for me to crack. But I didn't. Not yet. Because the real story wasn't Ethan calling like a man in pain. The real story was the way he kept calling like a man who'd lost control of his property. Danny's phone buzzed again. And again. And again. By the time Ethan hit call number 31, Danny was holding her phone away from her ear like he was yelling loud enough to leave a mark. "He's spiraling," she muttered. I stared at the ceiling, trying to locate the point where love turned into leverage. Then Danny's phone buzzed with something different. Not Ethan's name. A message request. From a platform Ethan couldn't block me on because he'd never thought I'd need it. Danielle squinted. "It's LinkedIn?" I blinked. "LinkedIn?" She turned the screen toward me. A connection request from Caleb Myers. I recognized the name instantly. Ethan had mentioned him dozens of times. The good guy friend, the one who always brought board games to parties and joked about wanting a boring life. The message attached read, "Mallory, you don't know me well, but you need to hear this from someone who isn't going to lie to you. This isn't all Ethan's fault. Please, just meet me for coffee." My stomach tightened. "This feels like a trap," I said. Danny nodded. "It could be, or it could be someone trying to save their conscience." I stared at the message until the words blurred slightly. The part that stuck wasn't "meet me." It was, "This isn't all Ethan's fault." Like he was already laying groundwork for excuses. Like he was already trying to split responsibility in a way that made the truth softer. I typed back anyway. Not because I trusted Caleb, because I trusted patterns. People don't come crawling into your inbox like that unless something inside their world is cracking too. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Briar and Bean on 4th, 1 hour. I hit send, then set my phone face down like I was closing a coffin. That night, sleep didn't come gently. I kept replaying Ethan's text in my mind, but it wasn't the words anymore. It was the tone, the casual certainty that I'd fix it, because I always fix things. I fixed his moods when he came home stressed. I fixed his laundry when he forgot. I fixed the social plans. I fixed the family dinners. I fixed the awkward silence between him and my friends by talking enough for both of us. And I'd almost fixed this too until something in me finally refused. The next morning, I dressed like I was going to court, not coffee. Dark jeans, simple sweater, hair pulled back, no soft, romantic version of me for anyone to twist into a villain. Danielle drove because she said she'd rather be bored in a parking lot than sorry later. Briar and Bean was the kind of cafe that tried hard to feel comforting. Warm wood, plants in corners, chalkboard menus with cute handwriting. Caleb was already there. He stood when he saw me, hands open like he was trying to look harmless. He looked worse than I expected. Not dramatic worse, just the kind of tired that comes from carrying something ugly and pretending it's light. "Mallory," he said quietly, "thank you for coming." I didn't hug him. I didn't smile. I just sat. "Say what you need to say," I told him. Caleb swallowed. His gaze flicked over my shoulder toward the window, toward Danny's car in the lot. "I'm not here to defend him," he said fast. "I swear, I can't unsee what I saw." "What did you see?" I asked, voice flat. He exhaled hard. "There's a group chat," he said. I didn't react. My stillness made him speak faster. "Ethan and 5 of the guys. They've had it for years. They compare their girlfriends, fiancés, whoever they're dating. It started as jokes and then it got organized." My fingers curled around my coffee cup even though I hadn't taken a sip. "Organized how?" I asked. Caleb's jaw tightened. "They rate you," he admitted. The word landed in my chest like something cold. "Rate," I repeated. He nodded, ashamed. "They call it accountability, like they're helping each other not settle." I stared at him, waiting for the punchline that would make this less real. But there wasn't one. Caleb reached into his bag and pulled out his phone like it weighed 100 pounds. "I took screenshots," he said. My eyes narrowed. "Why?" He looked like he wanted to disappear. "Because I'm engaged, Mallory. And my fiancé, Kara, she's incredible. She's kind, and she's smart, and she doesn't treat love like a transaction. And last week I saw them talking about her the same way they talk about everyone." He swallowed. I didn't want to be part of that anymore. The cafe felt too bright, too normal. Caleb turned his phone toward me. On the screen, a chat thread, a familiar circle of names. Ethan's included. I felt my heartbeat slow, not from calm, but from something more dangerous. "Focus," Caleb scrolled. I saw messages about proposals, about money, about training expectations early, about how a woman should prove she's worth investing in. And then I saw my name, Mallory K., engagement score, 6.1 out of 10. Pros: good career, looks good in photos, loyal. Cons: ring size too small, proposal location basic, needs upgrade. My throat tightened. Caleb's finger hovered like he was afraid to keep going. But he did. I read Ethan's message, typed in the same hands that held mine at night. "Noah just got Ava a 2 carat. Mallory's ring for me is solid, but it's not enough. I look broke next to him. She can afford better. I saw her spending on that dumb laptop upgrade. Someone replied, just make it about resizing. Exchange it. Say the band's irritating your finger. Women fall for that all the time. Or tell her your friends noticed. Shame works. Then Ethan. Yeah, she'll do it. She always does. My pulse thudded in my ears. Caleb's voice broke through gently. I'm sorry. I didn't answer. Because the betrayal wasn't just that he'd said those things. It was that he'd said them like I was predictable. Like my love was a lever he could pull. I stared at the screen until Caleb shifted uncomfortably. There's more, he said. I looked up slowly. Of course there is. Caleb hesitated, then scrolled again. There were messages from months ago, before the engagement. Ethan talking about the timing, like he was planning a product launch. If I propose, she'll feel invested. She'll spend more. Once she commits, upgrades become easier to justify. My fingers went numb around the cup. I forced myself to breathe through my nose. Caleb watched me like he expected me to explode. Instead, I did something worse. I got quiet. Because quiet is where decisions get made. You said this isn't all Ethan's fault, I said softly. Caleb flinched. I meant, he didn't invent this. He's been influenced. It's a culture thing with them. But no, I cut in, my voice sharp enough to slice. He chose it. Caleb looked down. And you, I added, you were in that chat. I was, he admitted, and I hate myself for it. Why show me now, I asked. His eyes lifted, wet with regret. Because when you returned the ring and left, it scared them. That made me pause. Scared them? I repeated. Caleb nodded. They keep saying you're dangerous, that you're setting a precedent, that if women start doing what you did, they lose leverage. My stomach turned. Not because it surprised me, because it confirmed something I didn't want to admit. Ethan didn't miss me. He missed what he thought he could get from me. Caleb's voice lowered. They're angry, Mallory. Not sad. Angry. I leaned back slightly, feeling the air shift again, like the front door of my life had opened and let something colder in. I need a copy of those screenshots, I said. Caleb blinked. You want them? I met his eyes. I need them. He hesitated. Mallory, if you use them. I'm not asking your permission, I said calmly. I'm telling you what's going to happen. Caleb swallowed hard, then nodded like a man who finally understood what accountability actually meant. I'll send them, he said quietly. Right now. I watched as he emailed them to me, each file transferring like a weapon being loaded. When he finished, he looked up, voice shaking. I'm sorry, he repeated, truly. I stood, sliding my chair back. I appreciate the honesty, I said, but it doesn't change anything. Caleb's face tightened. You're really done. I looked at him for a long moment. I was done the moment Ethan decided my love was something he could upgrade, I said. Then I turned and walked out. Outside, the winter air hit my face like clarity. Danielle got out of her car fast. What happened? She asked, scanning me like she was checking for injuries. I held up my phone. He rated me, I said simply. Danny's expression changed, anger sharpening her features. Oh, she breathed. Oh, Mallory. I exhaled slowly. And that's when my phone buzzed again. Not Ethan, a new number. Then another. Then my email lit up with a flood of notifications. Because while I'd been sitting in a cozy cafe, learning my relationship had been turned into a spreadsheet, Ethan had been gathering an audience. And somewhere in the city, I could feel it, like thunder rolling in from the horizon. He wasn't coming to apologize. He was coming to reclaim what he thought was his. And Caleb was right. He wasn't coming alone. By the time Ethan showed up at Danielle's house that night, the air already felt charged, like the quiet before glass starts breaking. I knew it was him before Danny even checked the doorbell camera. Because my phone buzzed once, then twice, then stopped. That silence told me everything. They're here, Danny said, voice tight. They, plural. She angled the screen toward me. Ethan stood on the porch, shoulders squared like he was preparing for battle. Flanking him were three of his friends, Noah, Marcus, and Leo, faces set in matching expressions of righteous irritation. And slightly behind them, phone already raised, was his sister Bethany, recording vertically, lips pursed in anticipation. They hadn't come to talk. They'd come to perform. Danny didn't open the door. Ethan knocked anyway, sharp, authoritative, like he still believed access was something he could demand. Mallory, he called, open the door. We need to talk. I stayed seated on the couch, legs crossed, hands steady in my lap. No, Danny called back, you don't. Ethan laughed, short and disbelieving. This is ridiculous. You're hiding her like she's in witness protection. Funny, Danny said, pulling out her own phone, because I'm recording too. That made Bethany's smile widen. She loved a camera. Ethan knocked again, harder. "You're humiliating me," he said, voice rising. "Do you know how this looks?" I finally stood and walked to the door, not to open it, but to stand behind it, to be close enough that he could hear me clearly. "Funny," I said through the wood. "You didn't seem worried about how it looked when you told your friends my ring was embarrassing." There was a pause. Then Noah scoffed loudly. "Oh my God, are we really doing this over a ring?" I smiled, though no one could see it. "No," I said calmly. "We're doing this over respect." Ethan exhaled like he was counting to 3. "Mallory, you're blowing this out of proportion. You didn't even give me a chance to explain." I tilted my head. "Explain which part? The part where you said you looked broke wearing something I paid 6 months for? Or the part where you promised your friends I'd do it because I always do?" That got a reaction. A sharp inhale, a muttered curse. Bethany's phone tilted slightly, adjusting for drama. "Wow," Marcus said. "You went through his messages?" I laughed then, a real laugh. "No," I said. "Someone with a conscience showed them to me." Ethan stiffened. I could hear it in his breathing. "Who?" he demanded. "That's not the question you should be asking," I replied. "The question is why none of you thought I'd ever find out." Bethany stepped closer to the door, camera up like she was narrating wildlife. "As you can see," she said loudly, "Mallory is refusing to take accountability for abandoning my brother over a simple request." Danny leaned in next to me. "Cool, let me narrate too." She raised her phone. "As you can see," Danny said sweetly, "a group of grown men have shown up uninvited to my home to intimidate a woman who returned a ring she bought because her fiancé demanded an upgrade." Bethany scoffed. "That's not what happened." I spoke clearly, evenly. "Ethan said an $8,500 ring was embarrassing because his friends made fun of him. I agreed, so I returned it." Silence. Then Leo muttered, "That's cold." I shrugged. "So was his spreadsheet." That hit. Noah blinked. "Spreadsheet?" Ethan snapped, "Shut up." Bethany's eyes flicked to him. "What spreadsheet?" Ethan ignored her, voice sharp now. "Mallory, you invaded my privacy." I leaned closer to the door. "You invaded my dignity," I said. "Privacy doesn't cover manipulation." Marcus crossed his arms. "Look, relationships are negotiations. Everyone knows that." I nodded. "You're right." And I negotiated my exit. Bethany scoffed loudly. "You don't just get to end an engagement unilaterally." "Yes," I said, "I do." Ethan laughed, strained. "You can't end it. I didn't agree." I closed my eyes for 1 second, then opened them. "That," I said quietly, "is exactly why I left." Noah stepped forward. "You're overreacting. A real woman would have just upgraded the ring without turning this into a public spectacle." Danny snorted. "A real man wouldn't need a committee to tell him how to value his fiancé." Bethany's phone zoomed in on the door. "See," she narrated. "No remorse, no accountability." I opened the door then. Not wide, just enough. Enough for them to see my face. Calm, steady, unmoved. "Accountability," I said, meeting Bethany's camera directly, "is when your actions have consequences." Ethan's eyes searched my face like he was looking for the version of me that used to soften. "She's upset," Bethany said to the camera, clearly emotional. I smiled slightly. "No," I said, "I'm finished." Ethan's voice cracked, not with sadness, but panic. "If you don't come back with a bigger ring by Friday," he said, "we're done. Forever." I didn't hesitate. "We were done the moment you told your friends I was predictable," I said. "This just took longer to reach you." Bethany gasped theatrically. "You're throwing away years over a misunderstanding," she declared. I shook my head. "No," I said. "I'm refusing to spend decades proving my worth to people who only respect price tags." Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice like he was trying to pull me back into a private orbit. "You're making a mistake," he said. "You won't find someone better." I met his eyes. "I already did," I replied. "Me." That broke something. Ethan's face hardened. "You'll regret this," he snapped. "I'll make sure everyone knows what you did." I glanced at Bethany's phone. "Please do," I said. "I'd hate for the truth to stay private." Danny stepped forward. "You need to leave. Now." Bethany hesitated. "We're not done here." Danny smiled. "Yes, you are." Ethan stared at me for a long moment, jaw clenched, then turned sharply toward the porch steps. "Come on," he barked. They left in a flurry of muttering and wounded pride, Bethany still filming as she backed away, narrating like she was collecting evidence. The door shut. The lock clicked. My knees finally trembled. Danny exhaled. "That video's going up." I nodded slowly. "Good," I said, because for the first time, I wasn't afraid of the fallout. I was ready for it. Bethany posted the video that night. She titled it like she was unveiling a true crime expose. Toxic ex-fiancé refuses accountability after abandoning my brother over a simple request. I didn't see it right away. I was in Danielle's kitchen, hands wrapped around a mug of tea I'd already forgotten to drink, listening to my own heartbeat slow back to something human. Danny was the one who broke the quiet. "Oh," she said softly. "Oh no, she really thinks she did something." She turned her phone toward me. The video had been up for 20 minutes. The comments were already brutal, not the way Bethany expected. So she bought him an $8,500 ring and he called it embarrassing? King behavior? Nah. Queen behavior, leaving. Accountability for what? Not being his ATM? Why are his friends negotiating her money like it's a group project? I scrolled. My stomach flipped, not with fear, but disbelief. Strangers saw it. They saw him. Bethany's narrative collapsed in real time. An hour later, the video was gone. Deleted. But the screenshots weren't. They never are. Ethan didn't call me after that. He pivoted. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a name I hadn't expected. Patricia. His mother. I let it ring once. Twice. On the third, I answered. "Mallory," she said, voice smooth with practiced disappointment. "I'm very disappointed in you." I almost laughed. "You raised him to expect the best," she continued. "He has standards." "And I have boundaries," I replied calmly. "You embarrassed him," Patricia snapped. "We welcomed you into our family." "You welcomed my wallet," I said. "There's a difference." Her voice sharpened. "He loved you." "No," I said. "He loved what I provided." "You're being childish," she said. "Just buy the new ring and move on." I pictured the spreadsheet, the messages, the casual cruelty. "Ma'am," I said evenly, "I'd rather buy 2 carats of actual dirt." There was a stunned silence. Then the line went dead. Danielle raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess. Standards?" I nodded. "She's going to escalate," Danny said flatly. She was right. Ethan's next move wasn't emotional. It was theatrical. By noon, my social feeds were flooded with vague posts from him about betrayal, abandonment, narcissistic abuse. Old photos of us surfaced. Him kissing my temple, me smiling like trust was simple. Captions like, "When someone shows you who they are." I thought she was different. I ignored it until he posted a photo of the ring I'd bought. The caption read, "Imagine being told your worth is only $8,500. That one hit wrong. Not because it hurt, because it lied. I sat at Danielle's dining table, phone in my hand, heart steady. Then I posted my first update in months. One screenshot. His text. "My friends keep making comments, but it's embarrassing. I need you to upgrade this ASAP." My caption was simple. Imagine thinking someone's worth is measured by ring size. I put my phone down and went to shower. When I came back, Danny was staring at my phone like it might combust. "Mallory," she breathed. 500 likes in an hour. Ethan's post disappeared shortly after. That's when the real panic started. Because Ethan didn't just lose control of the narrative. He lost access to the money. We'd been planning a destination wedding. I'd put down deposits, venue, photographer, catering, on my credit card. About $12,000 total. I'd always planned to settle it together later. After the ring incident, I canceled everything. Most of it came back. A couple thousand didn't. Worth it. Ethan found out when the venue coordinator called him to confirm the cancellation. He went nuclear. He showed up at my office. Security escorted him out before he could finish screaming. "That was my wedding money," he yelled. "You stole my future." My coworkers stared like they were watching a live cautionary tale. My manager, Lena, pulled me aside afterward. "You okay?" she asked gently. I nodded. "Actually," I said, surprised by my own honesty, "I'm great." That afternoon, I got served. Small claims court. Ethan was suing me for canceled deposits, emotional distress, breach of verbal contract, financial abuse. Total $25,000. I laughed. Out loud. Called my cousin Rachel, who's a lawyer. She read everything in silence, then sighed. "This is the dumbest case I've seen this year," she said. "He's basically suing you for not marrying him after insulting you." "So?" I asked. "So we countersue for harassment." Court was set for 3 weeks later. Ethan treated it like a premiere. He showed up in an expensive suit, posture perfect, pain rehearsed. His mother sat behind him. Bethany, of course, filmed outside. His evidence was a mess. Happy photos, wedding receipts, a spreadsheet projecting lifetime earnings lost from not marrying me. The judge, an older woman with tired eyes and zero patience, reviewed it all. "So," she said slowly, "you demanded a more expensive ring because your friends teased you?" "That's taken out of context," Ethan protested. "What context makes that better?" the judge asked. The courtroom went very quiet. My evidence took 10 minutes. His text, the ring receipt, the return receipt, the harassment logs, the video of them forcing their way into Danielle's house. The judge didn't deliberate long. You cannot sue someone for ending an engagement, she said flatly. You cannot claim emotional distress when your own messages initiated the conflict. She dismissed his case. Then she reviewed ours. The calls, the office incident, the social media posts, his family's threats. I'm granting a restraining order, she said. 500 feet. No contact. Ethan lost it. You can't do this, he shouted. I loved her. The judge didn't blink. Funny way of showing it. Outside the courthouse, Patricia tried one last time. You've ruined his reputation, she hissed. No one will want him now. I smiled gently. That's not true, I said. Someone will marry him. They just won't know what they're getting into. I almost didn't. Bethany was filming. This is what happens when weak women can't handle strong men, she announced. I looked into the camera. This is what happens when entitled people face consequences. Danielle added, also, your brother owes me a new doormat. The aftermath was efficient. Ethan tried to get around the restraining order using mutual friends. I shut that down fast. The group chat imploded. Caleb called off his engagement after his fiancé saw how women were rated. Other relationships fell apart as screenshots leaked. Ethan's PR firm demoted him. No client contact. Dating apps didn't go well. People recognized him. Meanwhile, I rebuilt. Invested half the refunded money. Used the rest to travel alone for the first time. I met Peter in a bookstore 6 months later. First date, he insisted on splitting the bill. Second date, he cooked. Third date, he laughed when he found the online thread about Ethan. That guy was exhausting, he said. Peter gave me a simple silver ring from an art fair once. I loved it. Posted it with the caption, "It's perfect. No carrots. No comparison." Last I heard, Ethan got engaged again. To a woman he barely knew. Huge ring. Suspiciously huge. The comments were laughing emojis. His mother commented, "So happy my baby got what he deserves." He did. So did I. And the only thing I regret? Not seeing the signs sooner. The funny thing about ending a story like this is that life doesn't stop just because the credits should roll. It keeps going. Quietly. Persistently. Sometimes with a sense of humor so sharp it feels intentional. A few weeks after court, when the restraining order had settled into something real and enforceable, I woke up one morning and realized my phone was peaceful. No new numbers trying to slip through. No friends awkwardly checking in on Ethan's behalf. No vague posts aimed like darts. Just silence. The good kind. I didn't realize how loud my life had been until it finally wasn't. Danielle noticed it too. You smile differently now, she said one morning while we drank coffee in her kitchen. Like you're not bracing for impact. I thought about that all day. Because she was right. For the first time in years, I wasn't anticipating someone else's disappointment. I wasn't preemptively adjusting myself to avoid conflict. I wasn't editing my words to keep the peace. I was just existing. That's when the indirect fallout started. It came in pieces. Caleb called first. I thought you should know, he said quietly. The group chat's gone. Deleted? I asked. No, he replied. Destroyed. Apparently, when the screenshots became part of the public court record, everything changed. The jokes weren't jokes anymore. The boys being boys excuse evaporated when fiancés, girlfriends, and wives saw themselves reduced to numbers and bullet points. Caleb ended his engagement, cleanly, honestly. Marcus got dumped after his girlfriend found out he'd labeled her high maintenance but worth it if managed properly. Leo's partner discovered he'd been cultivating options, a phrase that aged badly under scrutiny. Noah tried to defend himself publicly. That went about as well as you'd expect. Ethan became radioactive. Not canceled, just avoided. Invitations dried up. Mutual friends stopped returning his calls. The men who once validated him didn't want to be associated with the fallout. Accountability has a way of making people scatter. Then there was work. Ethan's firm didn't fire him. They did something worse. They took him off clients. Internal role. No visibility, no charm required. For someone who thrived on perception, it was a slow suffocation. I heard this secondhand, of course. I wasn't asking. I didn't need updates. Because my life was expanding in ways his never could. I moved into my own place again, a small apartment with tall windows and terrible closet space. I loved it instantly. Every inch of it felt earned. I redecorated with intention. Nothing flashy, nothing performative, just things I liked. A chair I could read in. Plants I didn't have to negotiate about. Art that didn't need to photograph well. For the first time, my space wasn't a stage. It was a refuge. That's when Peter showed up. Not dramatically, not with fireworks. Just there. We met in a bookstore, both reaching for the same copy of an essay collection. He apologized first. I laughed. We talked. It was easy in a way that didn't feel suspicious. On our first date, he split the bill without commentary. On the second, he cooked dinner at his place and burned the garlic bread. On the third, he found the online thread about my court case by accident. Wait, he said slowly, scrolling. This is you? I braced without realizing it. Then he laughed. Wow, he said, your ex was a lot. That was it. No probing, no ego, no need to compare himself. Just clarity. Months later, he gave me a ring. Not an engagement ring, not a statement. Just a simple silver band from an art fair because I'd mentioned liking the design. It reminded me of you, he said. I wore it because I wanted to. I posted it with one line. It's perfect. No carrots, no context. The last update came the way most things do now. Filtered, distant, unimportant. Ethan got engaged again. Big ring. Very big. So big it invited questions. The comments online were mostly laughing emojis and thinly veiled jokes. His fiancé posted constantly about winning and upgrading. People remembered. They always do. Someone sent me a screenshot of Patricia's comment. So happy my baby got what he deserves. She was right. He did. And so did I. I don't tell this story because I'm bitter. I tell it because I wish someone had told me sooner. When someone treats love like leverage, believe them. When they reduce you to a number, leave. When they call generosity embarrassing, walk away without explaining yourself. And when they tell you who they are, listen. Because silence, peace, and self-respect, they're worth more than any ring.